Good morning, everybody. I invite you to take your seats. Make sure you have your coffee with you. We're going to start. Make yourselves comfortable. Okay? Okay, please join us. Super. So it's my great pleasure to welcome you back. I don't know about you, but I've been learning so many things. This morning I learned how to survive a plane crash in a desert, which can always come in handy. So I'm happy to explain to you how to do that if you're interested. I hope you're rested. We had a wonderful evening yesterday, and I really want to take this opportunity to thank Janja Skerjet, conference manager at ELIA, and Audrey Zekin, head of international relations at HEAD, because they are playing a key role in making this event such a success, and I think we can give them a big round of applause. And it is now my great pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker of the day, Christopher Bailey, who will be joining me in a few seconds and who will also deliver the concluding remarks of this symposium. Christopher has played a pioneering role in bridging the arts and the global health conversation with studies at Columbia University, Oxford University, and the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He brings together a rare blend of artistic and scientific insights. After a career as a professional actor and playwright, Christopher joined the Rockefeller Foundation as research manager, and he later joined the World Health Organization here in Geneva, where he founded and led the Arts and Health Program and co-founded the Jamil Arts and Health Lab, exploring how the arts can promote physical, mental, and social well-being worldwide. Through his creative work and advocacy, Christopher has helped redefine how we think about health, not just as the absence of illness, but as the full expression of human potential and well-being. So, Christopher, please join me, and thank you very much for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Pascal. A bientôt. So how are we all feeling? Some applause for all of you and my own personal gratitude for listening to your stories over the last few days and how much it's enriched me. I'm going to applaud you because I feel very grateful for being in your presence. You know, it's a funny thing when you're asked to do a keynote, because oftentimes that's used as a synonym as just simply a plenary speaker. But that's not what keynote means. Keynote is the foundational note of a chord. And the actual keynote was delivered by Mary Laure on the first day. And she did such an excellent job of talking about the power of many and putting it into a frame for the entire event that we've just lived through. And in fact, as I've been going to the sessions and doing a workshop and all of that, in the back of my mind, I kept going back to words that she said on that first day. And that's what a keynote should do. So in a sense, doing a keynote now at closing is trying to complete that chord. So that's going to be my attempt in the next 25 minutes or so. I would like to offer, in the spirit of provocation, one little constructive criticism of her keynote. At one point, and I agreed with like 99% of what she did, we were singing from the same song sheet almost literally, but at one point she said that the foundation of all of our work collectively is critical thinking. And I thought, really? We're arts educators, we're artists. Is it critical thinking that is the foundation of our work. And it struck me, okay, first of all, she's heading up the Graduate Institute here in Geneva, so she's an academic. So it kind of reminded me of this joke from my theater days that actors would tell each other. If you ask the actor who plays the gravedigger in Hamlet what Hamlet's about, they're going to say, oh, it's about this gravedigger. And in a sense, that's what she was doing. Her world was critical thinking, so that's what this subject is about. Critical thinking is essential, don't get me wrong, and I come from the World Health Organization, which is an evidence-based organization, but for me, it's not the foundation, particularly from the arts point of view. It is a critical fail-safe to make sure that what we're doing is in the realm of reality, subjective as that might be, and corrects misinformation that could be misused in an authoritarian context, let's say. But actually, I think the foundation of our work is radical empathy. That's what the arts are about, neurologically, evolutionarily. It is about the ability to generate mirror neurons and to share emotional and experiential moments and build community and to support our individual and collective journeys towards authentic meaning in our lives. As Pascal said, part of what I've been doing in my stump speeches around the world is going back to the 1947 definition of health in the WHO Constitution, which does state that health is not merely the absence of disease and infirmity, but attaining the highest state of physical, mental, and social well-being. And I believe that the arts are not just a tool to help you achieve that or a way of broadcasting health messages, but are actually a health behavior that allows us to be our fullest selves. The arts are part of what it is to be human, part of what it is to be healthy. It is not a tool to become healthy. In fact, even the word health has its origins in an Anglo-Saxon word that's cognate to our English word for whole. And it basically means to be a complete person. And that, in our fragmented society today, is the challenge. How do we become feeling people and not just thinking people? And the arts uniquely evolved to do exactly that. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell a few stories. I'm going to touch on a bit of the science. But the idea isn't to give you a PowerPoint or a lecture. I can't see the PowerPoint anyway. So for me, it's a lot easier just to tell a story. Maybe if you're unlucky, I'll sing a song, whatever. But I try to exemplify what we do and what we're talking about. But before I do that, let's think about what it means to be an arts educator. What is the purpose of educating younger people in the arts? Is it so that they become professional artists and make their living by it? That's part of it. Is it because for younger people, an argument that I've heard, the Mozart effect, that if you expose people to music and the arts, they get better grades, they become better at other things, that it's not actually for arts itself, it's because it helps you with some other occupation? Maybe. I've heard an argument that investing in arts education, investing in the arts is an investment in the ancillary economy around it, the creative economy, that if you have shows and operas, then hotel businesses do better, transportation does better, restaurants do better. Okay, I'm sure that's good, but isn't that all sort of kind of beating around the bush? What is it, from an evolutionary standpoint, from a biochemical standpoint, from a neurological standpoint, that makes the arts special? And that's where we get to the power of many. The power of many is not just collaborating. The power of many is When you hear a musical piece on this stage and you have a shared experience where suddenly, and we've seen this with MRIs and portable EEG machines, your brain patterns begin to synchronize. Your heartbeat begins to synchronize. When you hear a line of music and you can hear the chord progression go from the tonic, subdominant to the dominant chord, the composer or the musician is such a master of their craft that it guides you into a state of anticipation, wondering what's going to happen next. And suddenly your system is filled with dopamine and your attention is focused on a common experience. And then when it resolves in a way that actually surprises you but makes complete musical sense, you get a shot of oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. It literally reinforces community, a sense of belonging. So, at least for a moment, when we have a performer, when we have a performance, you come out of that magic circle, that space, a little bit closer, a little bit more connected, and perhaps, if the artist has done their job extremely well, transformed, where you begin to see the world a little bit differently. So how does that work in practice in a health or a development context? In the first part of my career at WHO, I started the health informatics group where we were working with electronic medical records and HIV clinics in rural African villages at the height of the AIDS epidemic. And I remember going to the Kibera slum, which is just outside of Nairobi, and it's the largest slum in Africa. And as we were driving our four-wheel vehicle into this shanty town, which literally stretched from horizon to horizon, and driving through these unpaved pathways, just separations between the huts, kicking up this red East African dust, which to an IT professional was my worst enemy because it would get into the processors. And we would smell the smell of the roasted maize, of the street food that was there in the community, and we'd hear the children playing. It was a vibrant place, but it also happened to be the epicenter of the AIDS epidemic at the time, and the prevalence of people living with AIDS in the 16 to 26 age group was close to 60%. It was an absolute catastrophe. So as my colleagues and I drove up, we went into the HIV clinic and we were met by the clinical director, and she greeted us warmly, and my colleague, who was part of the health promotion department, asked, so what sort of materials do you have for AIDS prevention in this community? And she said, well, printing is too expensive. In fact, most of our population is Kikuyu, and most of the materials that exist are in Swahili, so they can't read them. If they can read at all, many of them are illiterate. So we really don't have anything. And he said, so what do you do? And she said, well, it's kind of hard to explain. Let me show you. So we walked across the quad into this cinder block building, and we walked from the hot African sun into the unlit darkness of this cool room. And as my eyes adjusted, there was a bench that stretched across the outer wall, and there were about a dozen Kenyans sitting there patiently. And you could smell that smell of almost like sucking pennies, the smell of cinder block. And as we sat in silence, the leaders of the group took a bowl of water and passed it around to everyone, and we washed each other's hands. Then plates were passed out, and we served each other rice and lentils, and we shared a meal. And as people finished up in silence, the leader of the group stood up and began to sing this song in Kikuyu. And the clinical director was whispering a simultaneous translation in my ear, and the song was essentially about how pleasurable it was to have sex with a condom. And at one point she took out this phallus and began, in rhythm to the song and dancing, began to roll a condom onto the phallus and then began to dance a simulated sex song, and then took the phallus and handed it to the first person, who then improvised the next verse. And then when they were done, they handed it to the next person, and they handed it to the next person, and sure enough, at a certain point, it was handed to me. Now, I don't speak Kikuyu, but I didn't want to be rude. So I sang the first song that came into my head, which was a Broadway show tune. And you should have seen these African women trying to find the danceable beat in this Broadway show tune and getting extremely frustrated. And by the time I hit the high note, then they kind of relaxed because they all began to ululate. So the song went something like this. I have often walked down the street before, but the pavement always stayed beneath my feet before. All at once am I, several stories high, as I walk down the street where you live. Are there... The song went like that. So afterwards, the clinical director said they want to know what that song was about. And I said, well, it was about having pleasurable sex with a condom, of course. Now, the point of this story is that it was more than just health messaging, that in the sharing of the song, in the community creation of a song, there was a safe place to talk about difficult taboo issues, but also it was a way of building community, of connecting. People who may have been isolated out of shame or shunning had begun to make a connection. There's a touchstone quote that I use in all of my work from Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, who said, "Loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the inability to express what matters to you most." And let's think about that for a moment. What are the reasons why we may not be able to express what matters to us? Sometimes it's because we just simply don't have the words, and we may need an intermediary, an artist, to help us find those words. Sometimes it's because of an unequal power relationship, where we fear the ramifications if we actually express what is truly meaningful to us. Sometimes we physically, literally can't because of an ailment, because of a condition. And sometimes there just aren't any words. And so we try and find that expression through a sound, through a movement, through the framing of an image. I'll give an example of a physical condition of why we may not be able to express what truly matters to us. Last year, I was in Nigeria, and I was in a displaced people's camp, and they were doing amazing work there. There were so many different visual arts activities, musical activities, dance activities, and all for the right reasons, to create a sense of community, a sense of purpose, an ability to imagine that magic what if, where in the face of despair and uncertainty and dread, to be able to ask what if, and then thereby navigate a path to a better future. That is also one of the essential aspects of the arts, that in the face of uncertainty, to suddenly see, okay, there is a pattern that I can explore, that can help me endure and get me to the next day. So I began to ask questions that I always ask, whether I'm in a clinic in Ireland or India or wherever else. I ask, so what are some of the most challenging health issues that you're facing? And without hesitation, in unison, all of them said, witchcraft. And I thought, okay, can you help me understand what you mean by that? In your context, what do you mean by witchcraft? And they looked around at each other and they said, well, for instance, there's a man under a spell just over the hill who we've basically expelled from the community. And I said, can you introduce me to him? And so we went, and I saw him, and I immediately could tell that this elderly man was suffering from dementia. And so I asked if anyone knew him, and one woman said, well, we're from the same village. And I said, so would you happen to know a song that he might know from his childhood? And she thought about it for a moment and says, well, I think so. And I said, could you sing it? And so she sang this song, and it went something like this. It was, the crickets, they sing, the crickets sing all day, all day, all day. And suddenly his eyes lit up, and he recognized her. He began to recognize people around. He had an understanding of who he was and where he was, and he began to sing along, and the crowd was astonished. And they turned to me and said, are you a witch? And I said, no, I'm from the World Health Organization. He's suffering from something called Alzheimer's disease, and in this case, it's affected his ability to remember and communicate, and I could tell from his contorted face and the way it relaxed when the song came on that's indeed what it was, because I've seen this all around the world, this effect. And the reason why it works, it's not magic, and it's only temporary, is that when you sing, when you're involved in a musical moment, the entire brain lights up in the MRI. And there's a reason for that. But what that means is that for a few minutes, neural connections can be made that were impossible a few minutes earlier because of that all-brain effect. The brain finds a detour around the damaged area temporarily, giving a glimpse to the person that you thought was lost. And they said, well, so what should we do? And I said, you need to invite him back into the community, you need to feed him and take care of him, and you should sing to him 3 times a day. So that's an example of a physical ailment. And in fact, we've also seen with stroke victims that when a stroke affects Broca's area, the speech center, and they find it impossible to speak after the stroke, they may not find it impossible to sing. So what a lot of therapists have been doing is working with stroke victims to let them sing what they want and then slowly build new neural pathways to basically bypass Broca's area, and they eventually learn to sing in a more monotone way and can simulate speech. So it doesn't cure the condition, but it allows the person to find a way to cope, to adapt, to find a workaround, and then eventually find a power and a meaning in their new condition. I'm going to tell one last story, and again, this is like cherry picking across the universe of this very rich subject. But the last story I'm going to tell is more of a personal story, and it's involving the visual arts. But I do want to say, just on music, that one of the things that people are not aware of is that as a species, singing and music evolved first. And that's why it's a whole brain effect. Poetry evolved second as an evolution from singing, and speech is relatively recent in our evolutionary pathway. It's actually the least evolved part of who we are, and it's what we depend on the most, and is keyed to our frontal cortex, our conscious thinking area, which is not where most of our experience inhabits. And that's also why I caution people to think that critical thinking is the foundation of what we do. The foundation of what we do is our ability to share emotional states with others in the amygdala, in the midbrain. That's where most of our living actually takes place, and most of our happiness and thriving has a potential, not in our thinking selves. And in fact, when we rely too much on critical thinking as a cult, there can be a backlash. WHO is guilty of that during the pandemic, setting ourselves up as the expert in COVID. Actually, yes, we needed to correct misinformation. Yes, we needed to get the science out there. All of that is absolutely vital to pandemic response. But without the storytelling, without the emotional connection, many people in their fear reaction just felt disconnected from that messaging and became vulnerable to misinformation. And we're seeing, in many ways, the political backlash around the world to this day. So, my story before we go into the conversation. I have terminal glaucoma. My optic nerve, due to prolonged increased ocular pressure, has disintegrated. I have about 5% vision. And when I lost my vision, I felt totally isolated and disconnected from the world. I had to relearn how to walk. I had to relearn how to eat. There was this humiliating infantilism to what I had to adjust to. And I did. And I eventually even, which all people who lose their sight develop this ability, I eventually learned how to echolocate and to use sound, and my brain rewired so that my visual cortex, instead of getting information from my optic nerve, began to rewire to my auditory senses, so the way sound passes through a room became a visual representation to me. And that's an ability that is a fail-safe built into all of us, that is only awakened when we lose our sight. But all of that didn't replace the fact that in our society, 80% of the way we communicate, 80% of the way we enjoy the world, our sense of beauty, is visual. So I felt exiled from the things that give us most pleasure in life. And none of these little tricks or coping mechanisms would replace that. And one day I was in London, and I was expected to give a performance presentation at the Wellcome Trust from a grant that I'd received. And I did what I often do before a performance. I walked around the city. I saw that there was a performance at St. Martin in the Fields, and so I thought I'll go to one of their lunchtime concerts and then make my way to the Wellcome Trust. And that day, it was before the pandemic, Trafalgar Square was absolutely packed. It was wall-to-wall people. And as I was trying to navigate through this sea of humanity to get to St. Martin in the Fields, I was getting buffeted about by all these people. And my heart began to race. I began to sweat. I was having a panic attack. And finally, I was disgorged from this storm of humanity on the wrong side of the square, and my heart sank because I found myself in front of the National Gallery, and I hadn't been to a museum in years because it had given me so much pleasure when I was younger. I couldn't bear to face the paintings in this corrupt, polluted state that my vision was in. But to escape the crowd, I went inside the museum, and I found myself in this gallery with these huge monumental paintings. And I was staring at them, and I was trying to make them out. They weren't clear. And as I looked at them, I saw images of ships and mist and rain and waves and storm. And I thought, oh, I know where I'm at. I'm in the Turner wing. And at that moment, I felt this saltiness on my cheek. And I thought, is that the salt water from the painting of the seascape? No, it was tears streaming down my cheek. Because in that triangulation between this long dead artist, the object he created, and my own personal experience, I could see the world through his eyes. And his view of the world of mist and fog was almost identical to the way I saw the world through my glaucoma. And for the first time, I actually could conceive that the way I see the world could be considered beautiful. Just as you willingly close your eyes to better embody a piece of music, just as you willingly close your eyes to better savor a glass of red wine, just as you willingly close your eyes to trace the gentle slope of a lover's forearm, so too do I now accept the closing of my eyes to better share this moment with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Christopher. I mean, I'm still very emotionally taken by what you've just shared, and I think it's a very wonderful way to remind us of the wonderful power of our diversity when we care for it. And I say this really well aware of the fact of the bias that we are two white men standing on stage. But thank you tremendously for your generosity in sharing that and for your beautiful insights that brought so many thoughts to mind. I'm sure you have so many as well, and we're going to have the privilege now of asking you questions and doing a Q&A together for about 25 minutes. So again, I'll be taking questions from the audience here in the room and online. And so that we can get as many questions through, please keep them short. And I very much look forward to our conversation.
Can I say something first
Go
about
ahead.
the Red Cross Museum?
Please do.
Because for those of you who don't know Geneva, WHO is at the top of the hill of Avenue Appia, and the Red Cross Museum is at the bottom.
Yeah, we're neighbors.
Yeah, we're neighbors. And so years ago, at lunchtime, I would just go to the Red Cross Museum because it was a place to go to. And there was one exhibit in particular that later completely informed my work. And that was an exhibit of objects made by people who had faced some form of confinement. And they could have been prisoners of war, they could have been hospital patients, they could have been in a retirement home, people on kidney dialysis. It didn't matter what the type of confinement was. But to see the creativity and what people were doing, it was, first of all, I hadn't conceived of museums having an exhibit like that before, so that's one thing. But the other was planting in my brain this notion that there are ways that we naturally try and create in situations where we are confined, when we are limited in what we do. And is there a science to that? Could we explore that? And so when the pandemic hit, all of that information started coming back, and we began to apply it. So it had a direct influence on the work that we do.
Well, thank you. It's true that it's an exceptional collection we keep in the museum, and it really shows how crafting and artistic practice can help us remember that we are human beings and keep some kind of sanity. I would open immediately to you if you have questions. I will this time not jump in. I will at a moment or another. Are there any questions?
Or reactions.
Or reactions, please.
You mentioned that you have learned to echolocate, and I am fascinated by echolocation. I would be interested to understand how your perception of what that means, as I know it activates the visual cortex, right, on an MRI when sound. How does that sound feel visually?
It's really quite remarkable because it's not the same thing as sight, but because for one thing it goes beyond boundaries. So for instance, in echolocation, I can have a sense of the space of the next room, which is actually invisible to you. So it goes beyond this room. But I don't know how to explain it visually, but what I can say is that when an object is bathed in light, it literally is the surface of things. It is light reflecting off the surface. With sound, the vibration actually passes through matter. So instead of observing the surface, the sound of my voice is passing through your bodies, through the room itself, and back into my body, and it actually gives me, in some ways, a more profound connection. And I can feel through the soundscape the textures. I can feel the number of people in the room. With the echo, I can get a sense of the shape of the room. It's really quite remarkable when it emerges, because it's like a whole new world suddenly is there. And I would also argue, and it gets back to the diversity issue, is that evolution may be triggered by accidents, but what sticks is no accident. And the fact that echolocation happens with everyone who loses their sight suggests that there is a programming that is latent in our DNA of that ability, because during our evolution, it was expected that a certain percentage of the population would go blind, and these abilities that you gain that are awakened are actually of use and maybe even essential to the survival of the clan. So these are not actually disabilities. These are abilities that are not better or worse, but they're different, and they contribute to the health of the community.
Perhaps to bounce back on that, you witnessed in so many situations around the world, and also here in Geneva. Let's not forget that everything you talked about and the stories you shared are just as valid and true here in Geneva. We endured a pandemic. We also take care of mental health in this city. There are so many things that work here as they do in other continents, so perhaps it's a general observation. But the sense of resilience that you nurtured through your work at the World Health Organization and in situations of distress, through the arts and through arts practice, are you also experiencing, or have you experienced this yourself in your journey now, that art was or is also a way to nurture your own resilience? Do these two things echo now in your life?
I think so, in ways large and small. In a very practical way, well, when I first lost my sight, I actually went to Dr. Tedros, our Director General, and offered my resignation because I didn't see how I was going to be able to fulfill my job. And he refused it. And he said, it's not about what you can't do, it's about what you can do. And so he had more faith in me than I had at that time. But then what I found is that in terms of the practice, for instance, when I was working with colleagues in the Unbroken Project in Lviv, in Ukraine, and was introduced to former combatants who had grievous injuries, mental and physical. Oftentimes when you come as an expert, there's an unequal power relationship and people don't trust you. It's just natural. But when they saw the glasses, when they saw the white cane, I didn't have to say, I know how you feel. They knew. I knew on one level how they felt. And so there was an immediate bonding. So being able to signal a certain type of vulnerability, but just the fact that I was there doing my job, also signaling that there's a way out of that you can thrive, not merely survive, was a very powerful statement without even having to say a word. And so actually I found that rather than hiding my disability, just simply incorporating it as part of my identity, not advertising it, but making it a part of who I am, had tremendous advantages that I didn't even have to promote. They're just there.
Is there another question? Yes, over here.
Hello, I'm Anna Tellis, and Christopher, I would like to start by thanking you for such an inspiring sharing moment we had with you, not only now, but also in the workshop. I'm deeply impressed, so thank you very much for that. I can relate to a number of things you touched upon. One of them is this notion of thriving creatively during times of health crisis. In the past, starting with the pandemics, of course, I have devoted some of my research energy to thinking and researching how composers have been affected by pandemics during history. And that's a work that that I'm passionate about. So my first question would be, is WHO somehow doing something similar or focusing on research about creative people that became the way they are because of health crisis? So that would be one question. The other comment has to do with the notion of confinement you mentioned. During my research, I discovered that this huge, massive work by Guillaume Machaut was accomplished during the plague because he went into self-confinement. And what that did to his imagination, to his creative energy, was just unthinkable of in the time. I mean, those extremely long musical forms did not exist. So I was very much interested also by what you said about the Red Cross exhibition. I wasn't in the Red Cross visit, unfortunately. I regret it already. I'll try to make up for it.
This was an old exhibition.
Yes.
I don't know if it's
anyway,
still
but yeah, my question for you would be: do you know of research being done and conducted about this kind of creativity effects? And of course I could relate also on a personal level to your history, your personal story about this condition that affects you and how that shapes you. Actually at dinner yesterday we were having a very similar conversation, but yeah, this is just a comment.
Well, I'll answer the second question first. Yes, there is research out there, but a lot of the measures that the research is using is about symptom relief. So the use of the arts to manage depression, insomnia, trauma response, but the symptoms of it. And what I've been trying to encourage through our Jamil Arts and Health Lab and our partner network is to balance that approach to also look at the asset measures. Trauma is something that can interfere with our everyday life after the traumatic event. That's clear. But there's also something called trauma-informed growth, where we can, possibly through the intermediary of an artistic intervention, transform into something new that has value to us. And that's actually the goal. And can we measure that? Can we measure faith in the future? Can we measure contentment with who we are, acceptance of who we are, and our connection to the world? And those asset measures provide more clues, I think, to the power of the arts, especially, because it's not just about the absence of a problematic symptom. Now, the first part of your question, I go back to the writings of Stephen Jay Gould, the paleontologist, who argued quite passionately that Darwin was misread by most people in history. When he talked about survival of the fittest, that was often misinterpreted, that there is somehow this ideal standard of humanity and that people who don't fit into that standard are somehow less human or less deserving of survival. And that's not actually what Darwin meant. Darwin talked about survival, really, of the most adaptable. And to adapt, you have to face a challenge. So when you have situations where there are no challenges, evolution stops. You don't change, better or worse, and you may even atrophy. But when you face challenges, even seemingly insurmountable challenges, yes, you may succumb to them, but also you may find an ability to cope, an ability to transcend, and that in and of itself can be written into the DNA code and can help spur evolution. So in some ways, on one level, disability is a driver of evolution. Or any challenge that we face. I mean, one of the things that I noticed in my work in Ukraine, for instance, I saw so many examples of transgenerational trauma. And one of the things that happens when you face a crisis and you already have transgenerational trauma is that your nervous system actually relaxes and says, oh, this is familiar. You know, this is why I've been anxious all my life. It was waiting for this moment. And so the remarkable ability of so many Ukrainians to function well in this unimaginably difficult situation that they're in is also a result of transgenerational trauma, because their nervous systems are used to it, for better or for worse. And even the ability to find the dark humor in the situation, to cope with using humor, is especially Ukrainian, but I see it all around the world too. Very serious situations, but humor that an outsider might find inappropriate, but is so vital to that coping, I find totally fascinating. So I don't think it's a black and white question, and we have to look at it from this deeper perspective and from a perspective of complexity.
Perhaps just, oh yeah, a question over here. Okay, sure.
Thank you. My name is Coralie. I am the president of the Heads Students Union and the HESSO students also. When you talk about while listening to music, that the bodies are synchronizing, it reminds me of the demonstrations of students who are happening in many places in Europe. And so this is my way of making the link with your presentation. I wanted to speak up for the students' point of view. Genau. So I'm gonna take a few minutes. I'm sorry, I asked before, and it's yeah, there was no better moment, unfortunately. Okay. Because I am an older student, I feel extremely lucky to be surrounded with friends from this other generation who is filling the classes today. I want to tell you, art school leaders, that your students are so clever, so sensitive, and so determined. They grew up with the means to inform themselves. So I want to ask you to not infantilize them. Please take them seriously. And most importantly, support them. Support your students actively. Here in Switzerland, the state sends the police to our art schools when students protest in support of Palestinian people, because it was officially communicated that art schools are not political places. As students, when we hear such sentence, we laugh of despair. Anything is political. As students, this is the first thing we know. Politics are not just political parties. We are not promoting the left or the green or the more left, but we are talking about the values we stand for, the values we want to live by and see applied in the world we are building while studying. The values we live by as individuals, as students. So we become masses, we become the students. And you will observe this distance that appears when people talk about the students. In media, among the city councils, or even here sometimes. When I hear talking about the students' movement, it really feels like it only concerns the students. I wanted to speak up to all of you today to remind you this. Fascism is rising pretty much everywhere. Students are on the street, breathing gas, being beaten up by the police. I have an art school friend. She is tall like this. She works around topics like radical tenderness. Adorable. We were at school, she picked up something on the floor and I saw her lower back. I saw huge dark bruises. I asked her what had happened and she said she was demonstrating against transphobic conference where with another 20 to 10 people. They got beaten up by the police. I am telling you this to say, your students are often having hard jobs to pay their studies with very stupid hours. They are studying for their classes. They sometimes have complicated family situations. And they are demonstrating on the streets, endure police violence, and they come to school and follow your classes. So my feeling about the power of many is the following. Us, students, are the many. Along history, the students often have been serving as moral compass. We are many, and we are expressing ourselves. You, art school leaders, academics, you have the power. Because you have the social status that give you the credibility, and you do have some power of action. Unfortunately, it is not enough to hold conferences. Your students need you to engage yourself, to take risks at least as much as your students. We know that you worked hard to get where you are, but remember that when students are on the streets, they shout against governments which are deciding on budget cuts for culture, education, research, and so on. We, students, are on the streets also for you. We know it is scary, but whatever you are scared of losing, now, it is already in jeopardy. So I am asking you today that you, individually, in a very near future, also take risks. Take risks, use your status, use your power to support your students into making their voices heard. Thank you.
I have a couple of comments on that I agree with everything that you say. At WHO and the Red Cross, we like to think of ourselves as apolitical, that whenever there is a crisis, we support human beings. We don't support individual groups over another. And in that sense, it's apolitical. But that stance, particularly in an authoritarian context, is political. And we become the targets. The number of health workers and relief workers who have been killed in conflicts today is at a historic high. Artists are in the same situation. Artists may feel that they're entirely apolitical, that freedom of expression, which I think is critical to the health benefits of the arts, if it's constrained, then there is no health benefit. In a certain context, total freedom of expression puts you at risk. It becomes political. So I would say you're right. Everything is political, even taking the stance of being completely apolitical. That is political, and it's a creative contradiction. But from my perspective, part of the responsibility of the artist at a fundamental level, and it's the same one as a medical professional, is to serve others, to help others, and particularly the vulnerable and the excluded. And that, sorry to say, in many contexts is political, whether you intend it to be that way or not. But that's not something I'm ever going to let go of.
Well, my turn also to thank you for speaking up and for sharing your voice and that of the students in this context. It's very important, and I thank you for that. We are now out of time, but we could continue this conversation for so long.
And we will.
Yes, and we will, definitely. That's why there's lunch now. So thank you very much again, Christopher. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you all. And it's now time for me to give the floor to Maria Hansen. Thank you very much.
We will just give them a moment. And it's not time for lunch yet. We have like a half hour to fill with lots more. Okay, thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Pascal. Thank you all for the conversation. Before we close, I would like to share something very special with you. You heard Susanne speak on the first day about ELIA's Ukraine project UAX. One really important pillar in UAX is the Abakanowicz Fellowship Program, named in honor of Polish artist Magdalena Abakanowicz and the foundation in her name, which has funded UAX for the past 3 years. Abakanowicz Fellows are young Ukrainian art students who receive a bursary through the UAX program that enables them to continue their studies as an art student. Having now implemented this program for almost 3 years, we know that these bursaries have been put to use beautifully. In many cases, the students use the money to create work, to help them to graduate and to move into the profession. They were mentored by academic staff from one of the non-Ukrainian sister schools. It's very exciting to now share some of that with you. I want to show you a bit of the work of 2 of our fellows, Daria Holosko, who is a film director, and Solomia Kozolop, who is a producer. Daria and Solomia are now working in the field, and we commissioned them to create a film for us, for UAX, about the UAX fellows. Their film is called Symphony of Absurd. It portrays the lives of 5 artists, also UAX fellows, from different Ukrainian cities and artistic disciplines. It reflects on what it means to be an artist in times of war. Just to tell you a little more about the 2, Daria is the director of the film. She recently completed her bachelor's degree in film and TV directing at the Kyiv Kapenko-Kari University of Theater, Cinema, and Television. And Solomia is a producer of the film. She recently completed her bachelor's degree in cinematography at the same university. Both were mentored in the space of the UAX program by mentors from the Film University Babelsberg in Potsdam. So right now, we will watch only a short extract of the film, which is currently being submitted to international film festivals. If you would like to screen the full version at your school, please contact the ELIA team directly and we will happily send you the details. So we're time to show the clip.
Все це почалося з пропозиції нашої викладачки Лариси попрацювати з Бекетом, з театром абсурду. А якщо Годо – це від слова God, то якщо українською, то це буде Богдан. І я така, вау, чекаючи на Богдана, це ж маршрутка.
Ти не чекаєш. Я не чекаю. А я чекаю. А ти чекаєш. А я чекаю. Ти чекаєш дива. Я чекаю на диво теж. Ти чекаєш на диво теж. Так. Якщо ти не чекаєш, то тоді ти не маєш тут сидіти.
Так, ти мені забороняєш тут сидіти.
Так, це місце для тих, хто чекає.
Так, це місце для тих, хто чекає.
Ти зайняла чуже місце.
Реальність, вона досить абсурдна, і те, що відбувається зараз в світі і в політиці, воно тільки якихось набертає обертів, і кожного разу ти думаєш, ну неможливо, щоб дно пробивалося, а воно все пробивається і пробивається. І це якесь таке безкінечне дно, яке теж притаманне абсурду. В нього немає рамок, як таких, немає меж.
А ви чекаєте?
Всю жизнь чекаю.
Всю жизнь чекаю.
Да, и все нормально.
І все нормально.
Потому что чекаю, жду. А если бы не ждал бы, было все плохо.
Правильно? А що?
Ну, надо всегда ждать, надо надеяться, надо всегда, чтобы
Да.
было лучше. И будет лучше.
Ви обіцяєте?
Это вы должны обещать. Я уже ничего не обещаю. То, что вы сейчас живете вот так и вот находитесь, да, это вы мне еще должны сказать спасибо. А то вообще, может, ничего бы уже не было. Поняли,
Ничего,
да?
ничего
А вот вы должны теперь, вы за это должны теперь отвечать, чтобы
я
государство было. С вас просто, с вас.
Я помічаю, що життя дуже швидкими темпами несеться, і я не встигаю. Я не встигаю, а водночас я чогось чекаю. Я чекаю, що щось станеться. Третя світова? Не знаю. Ні, не хотілося би. Але станеться тільки тоді, коли я щось зроблю. Я щось маю зробити для того, щоб воно сталося.
Маршрут номер 3.
Thank you. And I think it's very, very powerful, and I hope you get an opportunity to see the full work, and we wish them all the success in the world. We're very proud of the Aberkanovich Fellows and hope to guarantee a future for this fellowship program. You know, you heard on the first day that we are fundraising from foundations and from the EU for UAX, and this has been going really well. And I know there are also individuals and institutions that might want to give, but maybe can't give that much. To make that possible, we are really happy today to launch a fundraising campaign for the UAX Fellowships. Individuals and organizations can become patron of UAX. All donations are welcome. And the reason for giving can be manifold. Donor support doesn't just fund a fellowship. It keeps artists in the arts during crisis. You saw it. It makes a measurable, tangible difference to the lives of emerging artists. It strengthens and builds systemic, long-term cultural resistance in Ukraine. Maybe it's something for you, or maybe you know a person or an institution that would like to help. You can find information on our UAX page, on ELIA's website as of today, and we would be very grateful if you could spread the word. Please reach out to us if you have any questions at all, and we will be happy to help. There is, I think, a QR code. We love QR codes that you can use to scan to take you to that page. Thank you all very, very much for your support. And that completes this segment. And I'm segueing now into our closing of the Leadership Symposium. And to do that, to start that, I would like to introduce Audrey Zequin, Head of International Relations at Genève, one of the two masterminds behind the Leadership Symposium 2025.
Good morning, everyone. Here we are. Last week, when we decided with Lada that I would say the final words, and thank you on behalf of HED, I thought that would be easy. 3 inspiring days ahead, plenty of ideas to draw from and a lot to reflect on. But well, that was before the week actually started. And I have to admit that the truth is that the past 3 days have been quite busy on my side, beautifully busy. So I didn't really have the chance to attend many sessions or conferences this week. So this morning when I woke up, I was thinking, I might be now in a bit in a tricky situation to give a closing speech. But then it struck me that actually the organization of the symposium itself was probably the best possible example of collective intelligence in action. So let me share with you some behind-the-scene insights to give our thank you on behalf of HED. I've seen collective decision-making at work every time we met with the steering group, aligning, discussing, realigning, discussing again, and always agreeing at the end. So I would like to give a big thank you to the steering group members. This is Mart Kalm, our chair, Maria Hansen, Anna Altler, Anita Huggy, Christopher Vickerley, and Jill Forster. Thank you for your vision and for your commitment to this project. I would also like to give a very big thank you to the head director, Lada Umstetter, for your trust during the way, and to Aurélie Feller, our dean, for your support always throughout this journey. I have witnessed collective intelligence when all of you answered the survey to tell us what you would like to talk about in this symposium and what was your actual needs for those 3 days. And then every time we have met with speakers to prepare this project, exchanging ideas, questioning assumptions we had, and refining the program together, and ultimately shaping the experience that we have all shared today. Thank you to all the speakers and moderator for your invaluable contribution to the project. There will be a lot of applause, sorry, but I have seen the need, actually, of more sharing and more collective moment when we have met with a student from HEAD involved. The student from the Master in Visual Knowledge and also the Hive Collective, the 4 students who have led a project this morning. Thank you for the discussion we had, for your fresh perspective, and well done for your work this morning. I have seen collective efforts at its best, I think, with the organizing team, and especially with 2 incredible women, Yania, the ELIA conference manager, and Julieta here from HEAD. You are a great team to work with, calm, respectful, always keeping solidarity and kindness at the heart of everything. Bless you. And thank you both for making this process not only smooth, but also deeply human. This was very inspiring for me as well. Thank you to both of you. And of course, I would like to give a special mention to the logistical and the operational teams, the invisible backbone of an event like this. They solve problems before anyone even realizes there was a problem. So they might be fixing something now, but if you listen to me, I would like to thank Amandine, Fred, Sylvain, Michael, Elder, Alexandre, and Virginie, and to all the student staff that have made this 3 days possible. Thank you very much. And finally, we have seen collective energy, I hope, everywhere these past days. In your conversation, your knowledge sharing, your best practices, your question, and also your doubts. And of course, in every human connection that happened along the way, during both the formal session and of course the essential informal session, the one with nice coffee and maybe a little glass of wine. So thank you to all of you for making this collective journey a reality now. To you. And I'm done with a thank you, but I wanted to end on another note. Is at HEAD, we often say learning by doing, and it's a foundation of our pedagogy. So after this week, I can honestly also say I've learned by doing. On a personal note, I've grown my own leadership, yes, but more importantly, I think I've deepened my understanding of what it means to lead with others, to listen, to trust, to delegate, and to build together. So as we close, our hope is that this spirit of collaboration continues beyond this symposium into our daily work, our institution, and all the shared projects still to come. Because what had happened here was only one step in an ongoing conversation thanks to ELIA. So I'm calling now back Maria on stage, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Audrey. This is very moving. Thank you for that. So we would like to hear from you. We always want to know what you think. Did you have a good time? Do you have a critical reflection? And we will be very grateful for your feedback. This is the QR code for your feedback. You could do it right now, and then you can ignore all our emails. This is a good way of dealing with the situation, because we really want to hear from many, many of you. If you're interested in the slides that were shared, any resources that were shared, we're putting that together, and in a follow-up to the event, we will send you a link to a place where you can access all of that. It might not be all of it, but where presenters are willing to share them with us, we will be making them available to you. So, official thanks also from the part of ELIA, of course, and very much first and foremost to our host, Geneva University of Art and Design, HEAD Geneva, HESO. A huge round of applause to them for their generosity and hospitality. We thank our speakers and moderators, and I will name here Marie-Laure Salle, who got us started so well, and Christopher Bailey, who brought it all together at the end. We heard from Jenny Althoff, Ronnie Brown, Katja Tu Diallo, Karine Ayele-Durand, Fenka Purushottaman, Lawrence Russell, Matilda Tajitska, Crystal Williams, and we spoke with Pascal Hufschmidt, Anita Ugi, and Federica Martini. Thank them all very, very much for their contribution. And I include in that all the presenters and speakers and facilitators at all the sessions. I really tried. I did the jumping from one session to another, so I think I really saw a lot, and I was so impressed with the conversations that were going on, the preparation, and just the depth that you were managing to achieve with each other. Thank you for that. Audrey already thanked the steering group, and I will name them again because what they did is they reinvented the event. We gave them that as a challenge because we reinvent ourselves all the time, but in this case we really said, look at it again, turn it around, look at it from different sides. So thanks, huge thanks to Mart Kalm, Anna Eichler, Gilles Forster, Anita Ugi, and Christoph Weckele for the work they did on that challenge. Our partners in this event here at HEAD in the organization, Audrey Zekin and Giulietta Saccardi, you are amazing. Thank you. We too thank the staff here at HEAD Geneva and all the technicians, the catering team, the volunteers. We have seen wonderful performers and contributors to the cultural program and have been blessed to be in their presence and to receive their contributions. Thank you so much. Big thanks to Jennifer and Daniel from the Office for the Use of Mistakes and Coincidences. They will come back. Today I don't have the final work, but they do, so this is exciting. Thanks to our designer, our videographer and photographers. They are still working, and we will continue to work, and we're creating work that you can all admire afterwards. There are local partners that supported the event that also from the ELIA side we would like to acknowledge. That is CEFRI, Loterie Romande, Ville de Genève, HESSO, Geneva Private Foundation, and on our side it is Royal Talents, our corporate partner, and Azimut, corporate sponsor, who also gave a session here, and many of you talked to them. Thank you so much for your support. Bear with me just a little longer. We thank the students for coming to Geneva and or being in Geneva and being part of the event. You came from all over Europe, and we thank our supporting members for supporting that action, and I will name them: the Amsterdam University of the Arts, HKU University of the Arts Utrecht, Lucas School of Arts, University of the Arts London, Willem de Kooning Academy, Zurich University of the Arts. As I said this morning, we're onto something, and we're going to continue that work. Thank you so much. And I thank the ELIA team. There are many of them, and they are amazing. I think you know. My job is made very easy because of that. In Amsterdam, with us all the time, in spirit and in work, was Gabi and Zeynep, Matea, Sandra, Anastasia, Stefanos, Ingeborg, and Gita. And here in Geneva, and you met them all, were Amalia, Barbara, Derval, Irene, Joanna, Sanjeevi, Uliana, Dasha, and Linda. And, of course, last but never least, our mastermind, Janja Skerget. And I thank you all for being part of it, for being so active and contributing to our conversation. We have future events coming up that I will point out to you. Our EDI, Equity, Diversity, Inclusivity Community, will meet in March in Barcelona. There is a call for contributions open, so please do write to that. The Platform Internationalization, ELIA, has their annual meeting in June in Vilnius. There are amazing conferences, so do put that into your agenda. And we have ELIA Biennial Conference hosted by Artes in Zwolle, Netherlands in November. And that event also includes the ELIA General Assembly and elections to the Representative Board and the presidency of ELIA. We have lots of online events coming up and more to follow. Please follow our newsletter and you will find it all there. Now, this is another really important request. You might find this a tough act to follow, this leadership symposium, but we are looking for our next host to host the next ELIA Leadership Symposium in 2027. So maybe this is your time to put your institution on the map. The nomination for venues is now open, and our deadline is the 15th of December 2025. If you have any questions about that at all, do contact us, and we're happy to help. Now, very last practical notes. Reminder for our students, there's a group photo at 1 o'clock in the Petit Cube. So that's just behind that curtain, I think. Lunch is coming up. We're sitting again at the beautiful tables. Again, for those with dietary needs, please use the buffet at the end of the table on that side. The backstage room conversations continue still this afternoon. You can ask the team if you are interested and want to still be part of that. And now, really important, because many of you still have visits planned this afternoon. We have the visit to CERN or to the Palais des Nations. We call that Group 1. And that group departs at 2:15. And there will be guides holding up posters, and I'm assuming now, because it's not in my notes, that they would be gathering here. And I will be corrected by Janja if that is not, it is correct. So we will, as yesterday, follow the students with the posters. So that was CERN and Palais des Nations. This is the time, 14:15. And then the Palais des Nations Group 2. This is how it works. You have Group 1 or Group 2 for Palais des Nations. Group 2 departs at 14:45, same spot. And you have to have your passport or ID card. Dinner tonight, if you like, is optional. We will meet at Bain des Paquis at 6 o'clock for a fondue dinner. This is at your own expense, and I hope to see many of you there. It's in a very, very beautiful spot on the water. Finally, one more time, the QR code for the final evaluation. Please do it now. But first, I hand it over to Daniel and Jennifer from the Office for the Use of Mistakes and Coincidences, with their performative sculpture being part of. Thank you very much, and safe travels home.
Thank you, Maria. And I invite you to close your eyes as you're sitting there. Just close your eyes for just a few seconds and go back when we started on the conference and how you arrived here and what happened there. And I'm curious for the coincidences you met. So some things you knew before and some things emerged and developed while being here. And I invite you to pick out the most emotional coincidence of this conference, just for yourself. And when you got one, I ask you to raise your left hand just a little bit so that I know that you got one and I can continue to talk. Otherwise, we're going to sit here till tomorrow. And it would be great if you got one. Yes, thank you. Great. And then, it's called a performative sculpture, so it is a co-creative act. I invite you to open the eyes and stand up now. And you can turn around 180 degrees, and when we meet, hello, everybody? Everybody in the back also? Great. And then, leave your things and we meet there while the curtains are lifting, and I hope also the big curtains are lifting. We meet over here on this side where I'm waving. Leave your things for a moment at the chair, it's not needed. In a couple of minutes you're back there. It takes just a few minutes. Just let's meet here and let's try to make a circle, standing wise. Who needs a chair just raises the hand. We will offer a chair too, but the other ones try to make a, and we invite everybody. There is no difference in the room. Just come over and make a chair circle. And could I ask some people who, we could move the chairs a little bit here so that we have more space? Yeah. So if you're we were curious if this would work here. While we're trying to fix the circle, you can have a look around to the beings are together in the room, who you met, who you didn't meet till now, and you should definitely meet. You can check it. Tja. How we can change? Can we get some of these chairs a little bit more? We take them and move them over there to the place, so that this curve is a little bit more. Okay, great. Thank you. So, yeah. Thank you. Moving this one also. Okay. So, we were talking about the power of many, we were talking about power over many or with many. Now it's time to think about the power for many others who are not in the room. I invite you to either close your eyes or not do it. You think of one word you want to deliver from the conference to the people you are working for. One word you want to deliver from this conference to the people who are not here and you are working for. Okay? And if you have this word, I ask you to put your left hand like this in front of you so I can see that you got this word. You don't understand? You can't hear because you're behind that. Find a word coming out of this conference you want to deliver to the people you work for who are not here. And if you got one, you just open your left hand. That's great. So, and now we do the experiment. Our social sculptures are always an experiment. And we start here by taking the mic with the left hand, saying the word slowly and handing it on to the left hand of your neighbor, saying the word slowly, handing it on to. We will see. Now. Hope.
Courage.
Cher.
Trust. Hope.
Well-being.
Care.
Tenderness.
Engagement.
Dialogue.
Students.
Community.
Enable.
Empathy.
Action.
Interdisciplinarity.
Honesty.
Collaboration. Benevolence. Solidarity.
Collective.
Radical empathy. Well-being.
Solidarity.
Planning. Communication. Energy.
Ukraine. Peace.
Research. Preservation. Love. Hope.
Inspiration. Exchange.
Together.
Respect.
Hope.
Morals. Dialogue.
Sharing. Vulnerability. Courage. Collective. Better.
Cooperation.
Unlearning. Empathy.
Gratitude.
Trust.
Share.
Purpose.
Ukraine.
Imagination.
Thrive.
Love.
Support. Power.
Connections. Imagination.
Creation.
Humility.
Empowerment.
Informal.
Resilience.
Together.
Collaboration.
Space.
Risk.
Friendship.
Trust.
Empathy. Gratitude.
Care.
Value.
Change.
Breathing.
Body intelligence. Togetherness. Empathy.
With.
Engagement.
Power with.
Creativity.
Easy.
Empathy. Community.
Peace.
Trust.
Creativity.
Well-being.
Serbia.
Opportunity.
Open up.
Circle of trust.
Understanding.
Benevolence.
Resistance.
Distributed leadership.
With.
Empathy.
Audacity.
Compassion.
Empathy. Togetherness.
Synergy.
Collective.
Listening.
Kindness.
Generosity.
Connection.
Singing.
The other.
Collective.
Onward.
Awareness.
Care. Voice.
Solidarity.
Openness.
Telephone numbers.
Transformation.
Cactus.
Students.
Support.
Be political.
Chocolate.
Responsibility.
Curiosity.
Humility. Любовь. With. Responsibility. Friendly.
Authentic.
Strategy.
Unity.
Solidarity.
Reality. Art matters.
Development. Courage.
Courage. Reciprocity.
Thank you. And now, one last thing is to close your eyes once again and please start to make just a sound. Thanks to all of us that we are here as we are here. Thank you.